This electric wagon has 646 horsepower and it needs just 3.3 seconds to hit 100 kilometers per hour. Every time I floor the go pedal in this car, it's explosive. Feels really good. This thing is kind of absurd. 120, 30, you will frighten your passengers in this car. This is the Zeekr 7GT and it's pretty awesome. It has an adjustable air suspension system, chunky 4-piston brake calipers finished in orange, and power doors that swing open by themselves to reveal a surprisingly luxurious interior. It's considerably more affordable than the German cars it's obviously going after. And the Germans should definitely be worried, but there's also a good reason why they aren't quite dead yet. The Germans, I mean. Okay, time to show it a few corners. So this car has Michelin Pilot Sport EV tires, which are very progressive and predictable and quiet. When you accelerate hard in this car, the rear feels like it's settling, it's shuffling. It can't quite put all the power down, I think, and you feel it moving around. And also, regardless of what mode you're in, when you accelerate hard, especially at lower speeds, and the nose lifts, the steering goes a bit light, and you don't feel like you're in control necessarily, but more like you're holding on. Every time I floor the go pedal in this car, it's explosive. Feels really good. This thing is kind of absurd. So I've driven EVs with more power than this, but this just feels like it teleports you. I mean, the chassis is good, it just doesn't feel very sporty. But once you learn to trust it and allow yourself to lean on it a little bit more, it is a bit rewarding to drive quickly, actually. It chirps the rear tires when you accelerate. I just wish the steering was more communicative. This is fun. It's a different kind of fun to a Taycan for sure, but it's unquestionably enjoyable to drive this. This time it chirped the front inside tire. So even though this is about the size of a 3 Series Touring and just 10 centimeters longer than a Tesla Model 3, which weighs under 1.9 tons, this car that I'm driving today with the long-range 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack weighs 2.4 tons. You wouldn't know it just driving the car around. It doesn't feel that heavy. And the big battery pack in its belly really makes it feel very sure-footed and planted on the road through the corners. It gives it a lot of poise, surprisingly, and it shows that some very clever people engineered the chassis in this car. Now, even though this car is rear-wheel drive, or rear-biased in this case because my tester is all-wheel drive, it doesn't have a staggered wheel setup. So all 4 wheels have 255 section tires on them. And it makes it predictable, and I was able to get the back to step out. You can set the stability and traction control into sport or completely off, and you can slide the rear of this car if you want, but it's not as engaging, controllable, and fun as it is in the Porsche Taycan that I drove a couple of weeks ago. That is the benchmark that I'm not sure will be beaten anytime soon because it's been around since 2019 and surely everyone has benchmarked it, but nobody has been able to replicate its handling and just how it feels going down a twisty bit of tarmac. There's no bad angle on this car. I like the front, the side, and the rear. The front fascia is very distinctive with this black mask that runs all the way around. In China, this isn't just plain black. It actually lights up with the LED patterns and you can play animations and whatnot. But even though this doesn't light up, it works visually somehow. It reminds me of the latest Ferraris, and the actual light clusters are very slim and they live under this black plastic. The side is also very attractive. I like how they've continued this black element onto the front fender. and there's the Zeekr script here, which is pretty cool and it looks very premium. The mirrors are frameless somewhat, and they sit on this little pod thing here. The door handles are actually buttons in this version because they don't pop out. All you do is just press them and the door opens. The 20-inch wheels are unique to the top of the range Privilege model, and they're the best looking wheels you can get for a Zeekr, and they look much better than the 19-inch wheels you get on lesser versions of this car, as do the brakes. I'm not sure what size of rotor they have, but it is cross-drilled, and that orange caliper just lets you know that this car isn't messing around, which it isn't. The rear part of the car is my favorite. It's not a traditional boxy wagon, it's more of a shooting brake fastback, but it looks really, really good. This shape is as much about style and a design statement as it is about practicality, because it's not that spacious in the trunk. The button to open the hatch is hidden here next to the camera, and it reveals a mediocre trunk, 456 liters. It's less than some much smaller hatchbacks offer here in Europe. There's extra storage here under the false floor in the trunk where you can put cables and whatnot, and you can leave this shelf thing standing like this, presumably to keep items from rolling all the way back. And I like the attention to detail here. This scuff plate that you see when you open the trunk has the Zeekr logo embedded in it, but subtly. It's not like Mercedes stars all over the grille and everywhere. You can fold the rear bench 60/40. They're not electric, but you just tug on the little handles here and the seats just fall forward. And you also have these hooks here, which say max 2 kg. What would you hang here? Would you smoke some fish while it's hanging here? Let me know. But what I really like about the rear are these flanks that give the car a very muscular presence, and they are kind of Porsche-esque in a good way, not a copy of Porsche. It also has a floating roof type design, but instead of this line going straight here, they have this element that goes further down into the body, which again is a very, very cool design touch. And it works with this mini spoiler, or two spoilers rather. And there's an additional lip spoiler, which is finished in black on this car, on top of the little deck lid. I only have words of praise for this car's design. The people in Sweden who penned it did a fantastic job. Now, if there's one thing the 7GT does really well, is cruising. The air suspension in this car is fantastic. You can hardly believe that you're riding on 20-inch wheels when the car is as smooth as it is. There's a big difference between how this car feels in comfort mode and how it feels when you put it in sport, because it not only has air suspension that lowers the car, but it also has adaptive dampers. So now I'm in comfort, and the car feels like a floaty boat in a good way. So let me put it in sport, which lowers and firms up the suspension and also dials up the brutality of the power delivery, because this car's 646 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque will give you whiplash if you don't brace yourself. It has one of the most brutal power deliveries I've ever experienced in an EV, and I've been in vehicles more powerful than this, but nothing feels truly like a kick in the back the way this thing does. You cannot load it up, so no left foot on the brake, you just stop and then stomp. 120, 30, you will frighten your passengers in this car. Now that I've put it in sport mode, the steering has firmed up, but I don't think I like the way it feels in sport. The steering wheel seems to want to self-center a bit too aggressively, and the extra artificial weighting doesn't actually make the car feel more confidence-inspiring, and there's no more feel coming through the rim. Thankfully, there's an individual mode that allows you to pair the brutal power with the soft suspension and the standard steering. This car is unusual because it has double wishbone front suspension, which you won't find even in something like a BMW 3 Series, which has a simpler strut-based suspension. Now, double wishbone suspension is race car technology, basically. It allows the tires to stay better planted through the corners, and it improves grip and steering accuracy, especially when you load it up and it starts to lean. You don't get much feel through the steering wheel in the 7GT, but it is precise enough. It feels Volvo-esque because Zeekr is a Geely brand, and Geely owns Volvo, and all of these companies have a common parts bin. So it's not the sportiest thing to drive around a twisty road. But what makes the 7GT truly special is how much it costs. So the base version, called Core, with a single motor, 421 horsepower, and 75 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, cost 46,490 euros. Next up is the long-range rear-wheel drive car with the same motor as the Core, but the larger 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is the Range King, 655 kilometers claimed, and that costs 53,690 euros. The Privilege, like my Tester, which gets the bonkers power output, costs 59,690 euros. The optional power doors are another 2,000 euros. This two-tone part Nappa leather interior is another 1,500 euros. And that's it. So with all of the available options, this is 65-ish thousand euros, and you really get a lot for your money. Thanks to the 2.9 meter long wheelbase, there's plenty of room in the back here for tall passengers such as myself. I am 6 feet tall or 183 centimeters tall, and I have plenty of room to stretch out, even push my feet under the front seat, which certainly adds an extra layer of comfort on long journeys. There's no issue with knee room whatsoever. Headroom is a bit on the tightish side. Maybe it's because this car has the panoramic roof, which typically eats into headspace, especially in the back of vehicles that have a coupe or fastback style roof. Now, unlike in many German cars, where the quality of the materials is worse in the back than it is in the front, in the 7GT there's absolutely no difference. This is very nice and pleasant. This car's interior is fully upholstered in Nappa and synthetic leather, but you can't really tell them apart. Both feel fantastic. It feels great being in the back of the 7GT. The floor is high-ish, typical for an EV that isn't a crossover, so your knees are pushed up ever so slightly, but it's not that bad. The floor is almost completely flat. There is a little Humpty Dumpty here in the middle, like a tunnel thing. I'm not sure what that's for or why they couldn't avoid making it, but let me see. As a middle passenger, oh yeah, this is absolutely decent. I wouldn't want to travel in the middle seat on long journeys, but it's actually pretty okay. I especially like, and this is the same in the front, this pattern that is laser cut into the leather on the door, which also serves as a speaker grill. You also get some nice pockets here that are also made out of leather and feel very, very good. You get 2 climate vents, no screen unfortunately. Even though you have a heated back seat in this car, you cannot control it yourself. You have to ask somebody sitting in the front. You get a nice armrest that's really soft and fancy looking. And even though the cup holders are exposed here, there's no danger of your elbow falling in the hole. Now, because this is the top of the range Privilege model that I have, it also has an electrically reclining rear backrest for both outer seats. And it turns this back seat into one of the most comfortable in the class, I guess. I could definitely cover hundreds and hundreds of kilometers in this car. The front seats are really comfortable, and you can find a good driving position very easily since there's a lot of adjustment. And you also have an electrically extending thigh support, which is always nice. I would have liked the driver's seat to go a bit lower. The steering wheel itself is squared off on the top and on the bottom. It feels really, really nice to hold on to. It is, of course, heated in this version. And this 3-spoke design is excellent. I also like the fact that it has physical buttons as well as their material, because it isn't a glossy type plastic. It's a more matte looking material that doesn't pick up fingerprints. And in fact, I've had this car for a few days and I've not wiped the steering wheel down, and it looks really, really fresh and clean. As we've come to expect from Chinese cars, there aren't that many physical controls. You have the window switches, which look quite fancy, but I would prefer buttons that have a second click for when you hit the automatic function, so that you hit it once and it goes all the way down here. To make it go all the way down with a single touch, you just have to quickly touch it and then release it. If you want to adjust by how much it goes down, you keep it pressed and then release the button and it stops where you want it to stop. I have gotten used to it, but it took me a while. You also have, thankfully, physical controls for the seat, and you can control all of the functions, unlike in BMWs, where you now have just a part of the electric seat controls as physical buttons, and for the rest of them, you have to access a menu on the touchscreen. This has the functions in the touchscreen as well, so you can adjust your seat through that if you want. Not sure why you would, but you can. There's a row of physical buttons here, and then below it are two cooled wireless chargers for your phones. And below that, there's a little cubby here and a set of cup holders. The cubby in the armrest is really big, and you get two USBs, including a fast charging one that can supply 60 watts. I like this floating design element here, which is made even nicer by the fact that it has this stitching. Really makes it feel premium. You get a 15-inch OLED screen for the infotainment. It looks and moves pretty good. It was weirdly choppy and laggy when I used the car's navigation to take me to a charger because I wanted the car to precondition the battery on the way there. And this is running a Snapdragon 8295, which is a very powerful chip. So I'm sure it's actually the software that's the issue here, not the hardware, which means it will hopefully be fixed in the future through some sort of update. The infotainment itself is a mixed bag, to be honest. It is better than in the 001 that I drove, which has an older version of the Zeekr's infotainment. You also can't adjust the mirrors or the steering wheel, which has an electrically adjustable column. So you can't adjust it with physical controls because there aren't any, and you have to go through the menus. The driver gets a smaller display. It looks kind of like the one in the Porsche Taycan, but it's not curved. The car also has an augmented reality head-up display, whose bezel here on the dashboard is actually covered in leather. There's this Zeekr tag done in suede here. And this car is just a tactile delight. Just touching stuff in here feels good. This feels like a car worth 100,000 euros. So with its 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, my tester is rated at 558 kilometers WLTP. You can get this larger battery in a single motor configuration, and then the range jumps to 655 kilometers. The rear-wheel drive versions of this car make 421 horsepower, which is still plenty, and that includes the base model with a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. This is Zeekr's own second generation golden battery, which allows it to charge at 450 kilowatts, which is higher than any other car currently available in Europe, except the AMG GT 4-door EV, which can charge at up to 600 kilowatts. Zeekr says that the small battery 7GT charges from 10 to 80% in 13 minutes, while cars with the larger battery take 16 minutes to reach 80%. And the 100 kilowatt hour pack tops out at 420 kilowatts of peak charging power. This makes the 7GT a compromise-free EV. Since you don't have to wait around for it to charge, it is now genuinely comparable to just refueling your gas car. The WLTP range rating is pretty optimistic sometimes, but I think it comes close in this car. I think you can do over 500 kilometers. One thing I found a bit weird about this car is that even though there is an option to enable one pedal driving and you can switch from standard to strong energy recuperation mode, both of them are lies basically. This isn't really a one pedal driving system because if I lift off, and I'm in the strong setting now, it's barely scrubbing off any speed, and it will eventually stop on its own without me braking, but it's gonna take forever. So while most cars allow you to play with the regen and give you all sorts of settings to play around with until you tailor it to your preference, this does have a couple of settings, but they don't really do anything. I don't understand why they didn't just give it more regen or allow you to set it higher if you wanted to, because sure, now it feels like a gas car and you're kind of just coasting. I also tried the adaptive cruise control on the highway, and it works fine when there aren't any vehicles around you, but if a car passes you, it will slow you down for unknown reasons really. And the auto steer lane centering thing sometimes quits and then re-engages, and it just kind of tugs a bit too violently at the wheel. It's a bit disconcerting and it feels a bit rough and unfinished. It's a software thing because cars with this general hardware from Geely are known to be very good. I mean, Volvos have this hardware and their adaptive cruise control is very, very smooth. Yeah, the Zeekr 7GT. It's unmatched, really. Nothing comes close to its level of luxury, power, features, and affordability. Thank you for watching.